Welcome to part 1 of 3 videos showing you how I've set up my Logitech Yoke for flying the Cessna 152 in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I'm going to walk you through how I've arranged the different modes. Mode 1 for character control, camera views and flying. Mode 2 for radio and navigation. And Mode 3 for startup and lights. It's all listed out on the screen. Before we dive in, here's a quick tour of the controls. On the left handle there are buttons A1, A2. There's a point of view hat switch with 4 directions. On the back of the left handle there's the red button E. Throughout the whole demonstration I'll be using the E button as a shift key. On the right handle are the buttons B1, B2, C1 and C2. There's a red button D. On the back of the right handle is a mode switch which changes yoke from mode 1 to mode 2 to mode 3. On the throttle quadrant there are 3 axes, Z axis, RX axis, RY axis. I will call them left, middle and right. There are 6 switches, T1 to T6. For those who want to know, I've loaded up a Cessna 152 at Sedona. Switch to mode 3. This mode is for startup and lights. You can press Shift T4 to get into the plane for your cabin pre-flight checks like checking your fuel before pressing Shift T4 to go back outside for the external walk around. Change to mode 1 for character and camera views. Shift A2 move you backwards. Shift A1 move you forwards. Shift C1 moves you left. Shift C2 moves you right. Shift B1 toggles run mode and Shift B2 toggles crouch. There's a little bug in Flight Sim 2024. The crouch on the yoke doesn't work until you press the crouch on the keyboard. Once you've accessed the keyboard Q for crouch, the Shift B2 will now work. Turning the yoke turns the character left and right, and pulling the yoke look up, and pushing the yoke look down. If you want third person character mode, you can select it in mode 3 and pressing Shift T3. That will toggle third person character mode. I've assigned the Shift T3 because the 3 reminds me of third person. Back to mode 1. Shift A1 moves the character forward. Shift B2 moves it backwards. Shift C1 to the left. Shift C2 to the right. Shift B1 toggles run mode, and Shift B2 toggles crouch. And once again, you may need to play around with the keyboard to activate it first, but after that, Shift B2 will move the character up and down. Turning the yoke turns the character left and right. Pulling the yoke looks up, and pushing the yoke looks down. On a technical note, I could only get the POV look around working in the first person view, but not the third person view. However, the yoke controls work with both the character first person view and the third person view, so that's what I programmed in. Once you have done everything you want outside, switch to mode 3 and press Shift T4 to get into the cabin. Let's see the whole dashboard at once. I have custom camera view 0 set up for this. Switch to mode 1 for camera views. Press Shift POV down to get custom camera view 0 to see the whole dashboard. Let's hide the yokes. I've got A1 and A2 to increase and decrease the flaps. I've got B1 and B2 to increase and decrease elevator trim. C1 and C2 are mapped to rudder trim. Although the Cessna 152 doesn't have rudder trim, I'm keeping that spot for when I move onto a plane with rudder trim. Now for some camera views. In the cockpit, the POV lets us look left, right, up and down. T6 to reset. Shift A1 to move forwards. Shift A2 to move back. Shift C1 to move left. Shift C2 to move right. Shift B1 to move up. Shift B2 to move down. T6 to reset. POV up is look up, but for Shift POV up, I've mapped it to Cockpit View Upper. Shift POV up again returns you to the default cockpit view. POV down is look down, but Shift POV down loads custom camera view 0. And in this case, I've got it looking at the whole dashboard. Shift POV down again returns you back to the default view. So, Shift POV down toggles you between custom camera view 0 and the default view. Moving on to the throttle quadrant switches. T1 is cockpit view, that takes you to the cockpit where you are now. This is not a toggle, so if you press it twice, you will stay in the same place. Just going back to default view, reset. I couldn't fit everything I wanted into mode 1, so I've used mode 2 for the quick views. So mode 2, POV right is quick view right, POV left is quick view left, Shift POV right is 120 degrees to right, Shift POV left is 120 degrees to left. Back to mode 1, Shift POV down is custom camera view 0, and Shift POV right gives you next custom camera view. And again, and again, and again. That goes round. And Shift POV left goes round the other way. And Shift POV down takes you back to the default view. T2 is toggle instrument view 1. I can use Shift POV right and left to go to next and previous instrument view. And T2 toggles you back to the cockpit view. T3 is external view. This is also not a toggle, so if you press it twice, you'll stay in the same place. You can look around the plane using the POV keys. Shift A1 zooms in. Shift A2 zooms out. And T6 resets. T1 takes you back into the cockpit. T4 is toggle drone view. You can use a POV switches to look left and right, up and down, and Shift A1 to move forward, Shift A2 to move back, Shift C1 to left, Shift C2 to right, Shift B1 up, Shift B2 down. I'm going to do Shift A1 forward, and then you press the T3, making it Shift T3 can speed you up. And Shift T4 to slow you back down. And T6 to reset. T5 is toggle fixed camera 1. This only works if you're outside in external or drone mode. We're already outside in T4 drone mode, so T5 will work. T5 to toggle fixed camera 1. And Shift POV right for next fixed camera. And Shift POV left for previous fixed camera view. T5 to go back to fixed camera view 1, and T5 to get back to drone view. T6 we already covered, it resets your view. Button D toggles ATC. Shift D toggles the slew mode. Shift A1 is forward, Shift A2 is back, Shift C1 is left, Shift C2 is right, Shift B1 is up, Shift B2 is down, POV left turns you left, POV right turns you right, POV up pitches you up, POV down pitches you down, and Shift B to put you back on the ground. Shift D to toggle out to slew mode. Now shift mode's on the throttle quadrant. Let's get back into the cockpit. Shift T1 is toggle landing cockpit mode. Shift T2 is IFR pilot close. Shift T3 and T4 is increase and decrease drone speed. We've already covered that. Shift T5 is smart cam. So there's something over there. Shift T6 active pause. We're on the ground so you can't see the pause. So I'm going to mode 3 and pressing Shift T4 to exit the plane. And that tells you we're in pause mode. Back to mode 1, Shift T6 to unpause. That's all mode 1 done. Let me rotate down to start the next bit, which is mode 3 for startup and lights. In mode 3, A1 is toggle engine 1 fuel valve. So that's now on. Let's get to mode 1 and get back to custom camera view 0 to see the whole dashboard. Back to mode 3. A2 is toggle parking brakes. Check your levers work as expected. Left is anti-ice. Middle is throttle. I'll just leave that slightly out. And right is mixture. B1 is toggle master alternator. B2 is toggle master battery. Now the battery is on, Shift A1 is add fuel quantity 25%. Shift A2 is toggle primer. C2 is increase magneto once, twice, 3, 4 times. And if you want to do your checks, C1 is decrease magneto. And increase magneto again. D is toggle visual assistance display. G6 to reset display. Mode 3. And D to toggle your visual assistances. Shift D for EFB. Mode 1 back to custom camera view. Mode 3. T1 is pitot heat. T2 is nav light. T3 is strobe light. T4 is beacon light. T5 is taxi light. And T6 is landing light. Shift T1 is toggle glareshield light, but you need to go into sim and use the mouse to adjust the brightness in the cockpit first. After that, you can use Shift 1 to toggle the glareshield light on and off. Let me change that to nighttime so you can see it more clearly. So Shift T1 and Shift T2 is dome light or cabin light. And back to daytime. Shift T3 is third person view, but is also toggle cockpit and external view. Shift T4 is toggle in and out of character mode. Shift T6 is toggle pushback. Mode 1, reset view. Mode 3, Shift T6. I've edited out the blooper, which you can see at the end. Mode 1 to get back to custom camera view 0. Mode 2 for radio navigation. POV up and down is increase and decrease COM1. Shift POV up and down is increase and decrease COM2. A1 and A2 is increase and decrease nav1. Shift A1 and A2 is increase and decrease nav2. B1 and B2 is increase and decrease VOR1. Shift B1 and B2 is increase and decrease VOR2. C1 and C2 is increase and decrease transponder. D is let COM1 transmit. Shift D is let COM2 transmit. D, Shift D. T1 is COM1 swap. T2 is COM2 swap. T3 is nav1 swap. T4 is nav2 swap. T5 is increased ADF1 frequency. T6 is decreased ADF1 frequency. Shift T1 is increase sim rate. I'm using a utility called sim rate selector to display this. Shift T1 and Shift T2. Sometimes the sim rate selector stops the ADF from displaying properly, but it seems okay this time. Shift T3 is increase altimeter. And Shift T4 decrease altimeter. Shift T5 is increase heading indicator drift. And Shift T6 is decrease heading indicator drift. That's everything in mode 2, and that covers all the functions I displayed. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. You can watch my next video showing you how to copy my setup.